Well, this subscriber asked, oh, by the way, this subscriber was watching our Quick Tip 355, which is on rebatment or rebatment. I prefer the pronunciation rebatment, although I think it's supposed to be pronounced rebatment. What difference does it make, if you know what I'm talking about? Here we go. This person says, would you please give us a quick tip on how to apply this rule, she calls it, to a still life? I just can't seem to figure out the rebatment of a bouquet of flowers. That sounds like something we can really play with. Well, rebatment is not really a rule. It's a system for balancing a painting or for designing a painting. We're familiar with the rule of thirds system and that sort of thing. Well, rebatment is based on square and rectangle. So every rectangular canvas or rectangular sheet of paper, every rectangular shape has a rebatment. And what the rebatment is, just as a review for you, well, let's just do this. We'll do kind of a loose rectangle here. Now, within that rectangle, there are two squares. So we could take some tool such as this one, find the short side of the rectangle, and then here would be the rebatment of that rectangle. You see that one's almost a double rebatment. Or we could come on the other side. Let me shorten that one just a little bit. I really want to show you a true sense of rebatment. Most of the canvases that we get are standard, what we call standard sizing, standard proportion, and so more like that. There we go. Most of the canvases are standard proportion, and so you're going to have a rebatment that is a square in a rectangle. So you can see here that there's a rebatment on that side and then a rectangle on this side. Or also there's a square on this side and a rectangle on that side. So the rebatment then is this, and what belongs on the square side of the rebatment, part of the composition, and then the other part of the composition lives on the other side. And there's something about that's very akin to the golden mean, which enables a feeling of balance when we take advantage of those two things. Now, there's part one. Part two is, she said, vase of flowers. Well, and she said she just couldn't figure how to use the vase of flowers with the rebatment. Now, first of all, when you're thinking still life, go to a still, or when you're interested in what can happen with still life, let me say that, go to a still life painter that knows what they're doing, not just one. Well, I won't go into that part. And one that I recommend for you is Kathy Anderson. Her website is kathyandersonstudio.com, and you go to her website and click on still life. She understands how to arrange a still life. And you might find that some of her still life paintings are arranged or use the rebatment, but you may find that others don't. So main thing I wanted to do is just to introduce it. This is just a sampling of the paintings that she has available there. And you can see though that you don't see just a single vase of flowers as a composition unless they are distributed throughout the composition. So you see that where she has single vases of flowers, where the flowers are remaining in the vases, she's usually using a vertical oriented canvas. Although here we see this one is vertically oriented and we see some of the flower or some residue or flower petals or whatever on the other side. So a rebatment might not work for everything that you want to do with a vase of flowers. But what if you did want to use a vase of flowers? How would you do that within a rebatment? So let's just play with some ideas here, and let's just assume then we can assume that I think maybe what I'd like to do, and I'll just take this one away, and I'm going to use the left square of this rectangle, and let's just place that there. This is very loose, but now you can figure, or you can design a painting just very thumbnail like here. You'll notice that if you go through drawings that artists have done, sketchbooks, their thinking process, usually an artist will come up with an idea kind of really loose like this. A lot of Andrew Wyeth's ideas would happen in, corners of something, just anywhere, and they'll be very loose and very sketchy. So when you come up with an idea, you don't have to place every shape just or draw every shape just as you see it, but it's the idea of placement that you are concerned with first. Suppose we wanted to use a rebatment then for a placement of just maybe a traditional vase of flowers. Okay, two ways you can go there, and you might think of others. One would be to actually place a vase over in the square and design the vase within the square, and then over on the rectangular side you could have some other flowers lying on a table, or perhaps you could have something else on the table on the other side, so that you sort of have a conversation between what's going on in the square and what's going on in the rectangle. So that's one way. You'll see artists use that system, not necessarily with still life or a vase of flowers, but you see artists using that system throughout history, where you'll see the major activity, or whatever the painting is about, the major activity will be happening within the square, and then there will be a secondary activity that will be happening within the rectangle. Very interesting way to work. Another way to set up a rebatment with a vase of flowers is to set the vase up on the rebatment itself, and then let the vertical of the vase, if this is a vertical vase, this will work very well. You could let the vertical of the vase be that little visual division, and then watch how the flowers would be placed on either side. Now let me show you what I'm talking about there. Just an idea of what you might do with a vase of flowers. So I'm just going to make something up as I go. So let's say okay, we would have maybe sort of a traditional. This is a traditional vase shape. I don't know that I would want it touching the actual bottom of the canvas, but something like that. And then suppose you've got let's make it a little bit taller. Well, you can play with these ideas. This is usually the way ideas emerge, is just the playing with them. All right, suppose then you've got flowers coming in this direction, and some of them could be hanging over into this part like that. But then you've got other flowers, perhaps, and then you might have some limbs that are reaching over on this side with maybe whatever kind of flower you would have that'd be reaching over on that side. Let's assume that there would be a suggestion of a table, perhaps about right in there, something like that. And then we can see now almost, and maybe a little bit more of the composition, the composing part of it would go up into the square of the rectangle. And then it's going to say maybe a minor portion of it would dip down like this to sort of help balance it a little bit. Maybe scoot up into this space just a little bit. And then you might even have some of those petals, maybe dropping on the surface. You see something like that. So you see, by using that kind, let me just take away that vertical, because it does affect the composition. So let's just take that vertical away and then see if it needs. There we go. Let's see here. I believe that vertical line was affecting what I was doing, so I might just have something to go from this side across over the rebatment line over in there, something like that. And now you can see how the single vase in this vertical shape of vase, using how it being placed on the rebatment, then it can allow your arrangement of flowers, the major part, to lean over in this direction. A little bit of a repetition down here with maybe petals that have fallen, and then maybe I need to reach up just a little bit more. There we go, something like that. You come up with an idea like that, and you see that would make you a very nicely balanced composition. And the reverse could work, where you're using the rebatment on this side, where you're placing the vertical vase there. Now, it might not necessarily need to be a vertical vase. You can play, but the idea is that you would use on that part a shape that has that vertical feeling to it, whether you're using long stem flowers coming out of a flatter shape, such as Kathy has used here, or whether you're using longer shape. So the thing is that the best way to play with ideas like that, when you see something that on first appearance might seem challenging, the best way to play with it is like this. These little whiteboards that you can just use those markers and take the lines away and whatever. They're really, really good for playing with ideas. But if you'd like your ideas to be recorded, you might just play with an idea like that in a sketchbook, where that's all you're doing. You're just sort of playing with the shapes, or the general shapes and directions of your whatever your subject matter is, and you can come up with a composition. The next step is to go create a painting from it. Be sure and view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell, so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianeMize.com, where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.